Ukrainian F-16 fighters equipped with advanced air-to-air missiles, precision glide bombs, and radar jammers have moved beyond their earlier missions of intercepting Russian cruise missiles and drones. They are now increasingly targeting Russian forces along the 800-mile front line of the ongoing war. More and more images and videos show ex-European F-16s flying over Ukraine, including in the dangerous eastern region. Some of these aircraft are set up for air defense patrols, carrying guided missiles and extra fuel tanks. Other F-16s are prepared for more dangerous bombing missions, carrying small bombs and an electronic countermeasures to jam enemy radar. This setup allows the F-16s to strike Russian targets from long distances, while also detecting and interfering with Russian radar and missile systems. According to the pro-Ukrainian conflict intelligence team, these planes act as flying air defense with advanced missile warning technology. Before entering the war in February 2022, Ukraine lacked such electronic jamming capabilities, which left their jets vulnerable to Russian missiles and led to heavy losses early on. Nearly 100 Ukrainian jets were lost, many during the initial chaos of the Russian invasion.
France is pursuing access to Ukraine's critical mineral deposits, signaling that the United States is not the only nation interested in these resources, according to French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu. While Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to visit the White House on Friday, Lecornu revealed on Thursday that France has also been engaged in discussions for months. He has been negotiating with his Ukrainian counterpart to secure access to minerals essential for defense and emerging technologies. Lecornu was clear that France is considering purchasing these minerals from Ukraine and is not seeking them as compensation for money already spent on military to Ukraine.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer met with President Donald Trump at the White House Thursday to emphasize that lasting peace in Ukraine depends on Kyiv and European leaders being included in negotiations with Moscow. Trump's efforts to bring an end to Russia's war in Ukraine have raised concerns across Europe, where many fear his administration may offer excessive concessions to Russian President Vladimir Putin. His engagement with Russia has unsettled allies, leaving European leaders wary as they navigate the shifts in American foreign policy.
Friedrich Merz is poised to become Germany's next chancellor following the Christian Democratic Union's victory in the country's parliamentary elections on February 23rd. Merz has suggested that Europe may need to develop an independent defense capability, arguing that the United States has become largely indifferent to Europe's security. A key focus of any new European defense initiative would be ensuring Ukraine's protection as the country continues its fourth year of resistance against Russia's invasion. Ukraine's ability to withstand the conflict has been heavily reliant on substantial military aid from the United States, provided under former President Joe Biden. However, President Donald Trump has expressed his desire to end the war and recovery expenditures, even proposing that Ukraine grant America access to its mineral resources in exchange for the tens of billions of dollars Washington has spent on its defense. Andriy Zolotarev, director of the Kyiv-based Third Sector Analytical Center, said, "The United States possesses massive stockpiles of weapons and provides critically important intelligence, and that no European country, or even all of them combined, can match the U.S. satellite capabilities. Moreover, the U.S. supplies essential and uniquely valuable weaponry for Ukraine, including Patriot missile defense systems, long-range guided missiles, multiple launch rocket systems, as well as spare parts for armored vehicles and artillery. This is indispensable."
North Korea has increased its troop presence in Russia and repositioned existing forces to the front line in the western Kursk region, according to South Korea's intelligence agency. While the exact number of additional soldiers remains unclear, military sources cited in South Korean media estimate that at least 1,000 have been sent. Neither Moscow nor Pyongyang has officially acknowledged the deployment. Since North Korean troops were first deployed to support Russia in its war against Ukraine, they are believed to have suffered significant losses over the past 4 months. South Korean intelligence also reported on Thursday that North Korean troops already stationed in Russia had been moved to the Kursk front line in early February after a month-long pause in their operations. Although Ukrainian forces have been gradually pushed back, partially due to the arrival of North Korean troops in Russia in October, they continue to hold hundreds of square kilometers of Russian territory and are inflicting substantial losses on enemy forces. Russia has not provided an official update on its battlefield casualties since September 2022, when it reported 5,937 soldiers killed. Zelensky has placed Ukraine's military losses at 45,100, though some military analysts in both Ukraine and the West believe the true number is significantly higher.
Russian officials engaged in negotiations with the United States continue to assert that any resolution to the war in Ukraine must adhere to Russia's 2021 demands. They also insist that Ukraine cede to Russia territory currently under Ukrainian control, which includes major cities and more than 1 million residents. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who led Russia's delegation at the February U.S.-Russian talks in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, stated that freezing the current front lines in Ukraine is not an option, as the Russian constitution designates all of Ukraine's Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia oblasts as part of Russia. However, Russia does not currently control significant portions of Donetsk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia oblasts, as well as a small section of western Luhansk Oblast.
Russia is demanding that Ukraine surrender multiple major cities that remain under Ukrainian control and are not at risk of falling to Russian forces, effectively handing over 1 million Ukrainians to Russian rule. The occupation of the remaining portions of 4 Ukrainian oblasts would include key urban centers such as Kherson City that had a pre-war population of approximately 275,000, Kramatorsk with a pre-war population of 147,000 people, and Zaporizhia City with 706,000 people, all of which are still held by Ukraine. The forced takeover of these densely populated areas would drastically worsen the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. Russian authorities have a track record of using oppressive measures, forced displacement, and assimilation tactics against civilians in occupied territories, and they would likely impose the same brutal policies on Ukrainians in these cities. For over 3 years, millions of Ukrainians have already endured such conditions under Russian control. Meanwhile, Russia's military advances have largely stalled along the front lines, with rising losses in both personnel and equipment, making it increasingly unlikely that Russian forces can militarily seize these regions in the near future, if at all. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's demands appear to be an attempt to secure through diplomacy what the Russian military has failed to achieve on the battlefield. The Kremlin's insistence on seizing additional Ukrainian territory and population runs counter to U.S. and European efforts to establish a lasting and just peace. Rather than negotiating in good faith or offering meaningful concessions, Russia continues to pursue the illegal occupation of Ukraine.
Here's a quick summary of reported frontline changes. Ukrainian paratroopers from the 25th Sykes-Lav Separate Airborne Brigade have taken control of the village of Kotline, located 10 kilometers from Pokrovsk. The paratroopers drove Russian forces out of the northern part of the settlement, north of the railroad, during an assault. Soldiers of the 425th Skala Separate Assault Regiment cleared the enemy's trench system near Kotline and drove invaders out of the southern part of the village, south of the railroad. After clearing the area, the Ukrainian military fought off a Russian attempt to re-enter Kotline. Russian forces have advanced to the east of Slykovo, entering the western part of Liva. In Chasiv Yar, Russian forces have advanced southwest to the high-rises near the factory and south towards Stupaki.